So, hello everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Science Save Sharks with Marine Dynamics. My name is Dickie Chivell and I'm going to be your host today. Joining us is Ralph Watson. Ralph is one of our biologists actively in the field. What's up, Ralph? Thank you for joining us.
Hi, Dickie. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, it's great having you guys. So, just before we start, a quick recap on what this is for our new viewers. So, we are basically taking one of our biologists live every week that is active in the field with Marine Dynamics, talking about their research and various initiatives that we have at Marine Dynamics. And Ralph is one of them. So, Ralph, I'm sure I've done enough intros. For you new guys, I'll put up something on my Instagram. But, Ralph, the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Dickie. Yeah, so like Dickie says, I'm very much involved with the research behind the scenes, analyzing the data, going out into the field. For some of you, they may notice I've got a little bit of an accent. Don't worry, I am South African. I grew up in the Netherlands, so my accent's got a little bit muddled along the way. I'm also a PhD candidate at Rhodes University. I'm busy writing up my PhD. And besides all of that, I'm also involved with Marine Dynamics Academy. And I'm basically acting as scientific lead, making sure that our interns do all a variety of projects, get their feet wet when they get into the field of marine biology.
Yeah, Ralph, and it's really cool, guys. I'm lucky enough to be involved with some of the stuff that Ralph is doing for the Marine Dynamics Academy, a lot of which we'll be discussing today, but other stuff as well, like strandings. Ralph, when there's whales, dolphins, sharks stranded, you're obviously taking the interns out to go look at that, take measurements, take samples, and as well as doing dissections and necropsies, which is very, very cool. But today, guys, that's a topic for another time. Today, before we get started on our actual topic, we've got some interesting news from the shark world that makes us very happy. And it's an announcement that got made last week, I think about a week ago, from Minister Creecy announcing the shark panel having to do with the fishing of sharks and long lining of sharks around the South African coastline. Now, Ralph is going to tell us a bit more about that. Ralph?
Thank you. Yeah, so for those of you who are watching in from overseas, Minister Creecy heads the Department of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries here in South Africa. And yeah, as Dickie said last week, she announced the creation of a panel of shark experts. And what they're going to do over the next couple of months, they're going to review South Africa's National Plan of Action for the conservation and management of sharks. And they're basically going to take a look to see, is that plan effective? Does it need to be improved? And then over the next couple of months, they're going to create a report and send it back to the minister to suggest various plans and improvements. And yeah, the panel includes people from within the department, but also people from shark experts from South Africa in the field. Some of the people there are good friends of ours, collaborators, Alison Cox, Charlene De Silva, and cool. We definitely wish them all the best of luck over the next few months with this big project.
Yes, guys, awesome. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, Ralph. Thank you very much. And yes, we wish them all the best of luck. This is something we advocated for at Marine Dynamics. We had some petitions, so we're very happy and we're looking forward to the results coming out of this. But our topic today is going to be the shark diversity in South Africa and in Gansbaai and how to study them. And no better person to be talking about than, as you said, PhD candidate, Ralph Watson today. So, Ralph, I just want to thank you again for joining us today. So my first question, I'm going to dive right in. We've got a bit to cover. So there are over 500 species of sharks in the world, and a lot of them are in South Africa. Are you going to explain to us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, scientists came out with a number of around 550 different shark species in the world. Now, new sharks are being discovered and described every year. The last one was actually in November of last year, and they described a small cat shark species from Indonesia. So the number 550 is a little bit outdated. It will most likely be closer to 560, 570 different shark species in the world. Now, here in South Africa is considered a biodiversity hotspot for sharks. And here we have about 117 different shark species, a lot of them endemic to South Africa. They're only found here and nowhere else.
Oh, well, that's really cool. 117 is a very large number. So obviously, Ralph, there are people like you studying these sharks, studying the diversity, and there's obviously various methods being used. How do you study such a large variety of different species of sharks?
Yeah, so diversity is a question that's basically been bothering scientists since the days of Darwin. How many species are there in a certain area? Now, for the marine world with sharks and fish and a variety of species, we've got a few well-known methods. So on the one hand, we can go out and start fishing for them, see like what do we catch and what's the diversity, how many species. We can also do scientific trawls, go out into the open sea, drag a big net and basically see what do you catch. Unfortunately, these methods do have a lot of downsides. A, very expensive, B, very extractive. So they take out a lot of sharks, and if you see a species that you haven't seen in an area before, it's beautiful, new, it's out of the ecosystem, it's already gone.
So it's a very invasive way. Sorry, Ralph. Please continue.
Yeah, so another method that you could use is take a look yourself, go diving. So put up some scuba gear and go to a reef or sand site and just kind of look around, see what you find. However, with that, it's very limited to maximum 30, 40 meters. You can only go out in very good weather. But some shark species are actually deterred by divers. You're swimming along, bubbles floating up to the top, and they can sense you from way before you can actually see them. So if they don't like what this big thing is swimming around creating bubbles, they'll go off in the other direction and you won't see it. It's there, but you won't see it.
Yeah, well, exactly. I've seen that quite a lot when diving, and it doesn't help chasing after a shark. They're a lot faster than you are. If you see it going there, you won't be able to identify the species. So, Ralph, obviously you're using a completely different method to study the sharks. And what's the method that you're working on in order to see the diversity of sharks around our coastline?
Yeah, so I'm using a method that's called BRUVS, and it's an acronym and it stands for Baited Remote Underwater Video. And it does exactly what it says in the name. You use a little bit of bait, say about 500 grams. Usually we use sardines. We put it in a canister onto a rig, and then first we attach a underwater camera to the other end, starts playing, and then we just drop the rig over the side of the boat. It sinks to the bottom, and the bait basically attracts a variety of fish and shark species in the area. They come all around and want to see, can I get a little bit of a bite out of this? And during that time, the underwater video is just playing along and capturing all the fish that are swimming around in the area. So yeah, you're not taking anything out of the ecosystem, and you get a good look of what's swimming around.
What's going around. That's awesome. It's a non-extractive, non-invasive way of looking at everything that's down there. Ralph, so would you like to show us a glimpse of this? Because I'm sure all of us are quite excited to see what you're actually talking about.
Yeah, so we've got a little bit of a video. So BRUVs are fantastic communication tools. And yeah, so this is basically a video. The BRUV is deployed and then it cuts immediately to quite a variety of fish species swimming around. So as you can see, there's a bait canister in the center. You've got yellow belly rock cod swimming around, blacktails. There's a red romance somewhere in the background. And here we actually have a small pajama cat shark that comes around and investigates the bait canister.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So you might also notice there's a little yellow fish swimming around with two black stripes along it. It's a juvenile Cape knifejaw. Here, this video was actually shot here at Dyer Island, and it's a spotted gully shark swimming around. So I thought people would find that quite interesting. See what shark species we get here.
Oh, that's really cool. That spotted gully that just swam past. I don't know if you guys saw it in the beginning of the video, a shark that just swam past. Okay, well, Ralph, that's obviously very, very cool. As we said, it's non-invasive. Here we have a message from Emma Payne from sunny Burnley, Lancashire, England. Hello, man. Thank you for joining us. So apart from just looking at the different animals you see, Ralph, what are the other things that you can be doing with the BRUV?
Yeah, so BRUVs are a fantastic way of also looking at a bit of the behavior of the fish. How do certain species interact with one another? Are certain species found more often when other species are absent? Or even within a species, how are individuals dealing with each other in a more smaller area? On the other hand, you can also, instead of using one camera, what we use, you can also use two cameras. It's known as a stereo BRUV. And if you know the exact distance between the two cameras, you can actually triangulate the length of individual fish and shark species that are swimming in front of the camera, which a lot of people might know. Once a species, individual reaches a certain length, it becomes mature, very much like people, and then they start to reproduce. Unfortunately, around South Africa, a lot of species in a fish are caught out of the ecosystem before they reach that length of maturity. We've developed marine protected areas as more of a safe haven for them. But to make sure that the marine protected areas are useful, you can't actually go in there and start fishing and see, am I catching bigger fish or bigger sharks? It would defeat the purpose. So that's where BRUVs come in. You deploy a BRUV, you're not taking anything out, but when you triangulate, you can exactly determine what is the length of that fish and is this marine protected area being useful.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, Ralph. Yeah, you've got this non-extractive way of seeing the adult populations or the reproductive populations within these areas, and then seeing if they're actually useful. Very cool. But this is all inshore that we've discussed as of now. So what if you want to take this offshore, Ralph? Are the BRUVs useful in an offshore environment as well?
Yes, so BRUVs are only limited to their technical specifications. So if you've got a camera that can handle high amounts of pressure and you attach a light source to the rig as well, you can actually deploy BRUV rigs out in the deep water, thousands of meters deep. And yeah, you just drop them. It will take a long time to fetch them and carry them on board. But then you can take a look at the fish and shark diversity in the deeper waters. But if you've got a light source, you can also use it back inshore at night and see what fish and sharks are swimming around in this area when there are no people around or when the sun isn't out in the sky.
Yeah, man, very, very cool. Ralph, I remember we've obviously spoken about this. Hey, mom, guys, sorry, it's my mom watching. Hey, mom. Hey, Lily. It's my little niece. Thank you very much for joining, guys. Fiona,
that's my aunt. Hi, Fiona.
Hi, Fiona. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. So, Ralph, I remember when we chatted about this briefly yesterday, you noticed, you mentioned that you can also use it in a pelagic sense. Is that correct?
Yeah, so instead of just dropping the rig over the side of the boat, you basically attach a few extra floats to it, and so that it kind of floats mid-water. And then you can go out into the open ocean, you drop it over the side, it hangs somewhere in 5-10 meters depth, and then you can get an indication of more pelagic species that we get around here. So your blues, your makos, sharks like
I
that.
love blues. I love blues and makers. You had me at blues and makers. Um, so Ralph, we've established a lot of cool things about the BRUVS. So how have you actually been using them in your studies?
So BRUVs were actually the first method that I used in shark research. So it started about 8 years ago. And I used BRUVs in False Bay to look at the shark diversity, shark and ray diversity in False Bay. So during 2 seasons, we went out, we deployed a whole bunch of BRUVs all around False Bay. Yeah, got it back in, analyzed the data, and we came up using just one method. We identified 19 different shark and ray species just in False Bay.
Whoa, man, that's a large number of species. And I mean, over a period of how long did you identify these that specifics in False Bay?
So False Bay was just 1 year, so one summer session and one winter session. But after my master's, I had a brief gap, and then I used BRUVs once again for my PhD in Mossel Bay. And there I actually looked at 3 different reef sites, and quite repetitively, like every week, we deployed BRUVs on these reefs and just looked at the fish and shark diversity, focusing on my pajama and leopard cat shark, but just to see like how is the abundance changing over time. And that we actually did for about 2.5 years.
Oh, that's cool, man. Do you maybe have something to show us regarding that? Because that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, so I've got a video here of one of the larger shark species we get around there. So you can see a beautiful ragged-tooth shark coming through, also known as sand tiger sharks in some area of the world. Here it actually swims overhead, but unfortunately with this one you can actually see it's got a bit of a fishing tackle hanging from the side of its jaw. And sometimes, yeah, the visibility isn't too great, but then, yeah, you get this beautiful big female swimming around.
Oh, I love raggies. So guys, for those of you that have worked up with us here at Marine Dynamics, for some of you that don't, some of the things that we also do is, and we've been quite successful quite a number of times, is also trying to detach, as I can say, the fishing gear from the sharks that we see around the boats, and we have been successful at that. I've tried it in the waters with a raggy before. It's not that easy. I have seen it on videos being done, but that shark that wasn't really having any of it. It wasn't like, hey, come here, take this out of my mouth. So I've tried that. So Ralph, we've established quite a few. Well, I'm just focused on the raggies for now. So sorry, guys. Uh, moving on from that. How obviously we're using BRUVs at Marine Dynamics, and guys, I get to help Ralph with the deployment of these. And how are we using the BRUVs at Marine Dynamics? What are you using these for?
Yeah, so here at Marine Dynamics, we use the BRUVs especially around Dyer Island to look at the shark and fish diversity around the incredibly important island just off the coast. But also through the Marine Dynamics Academy, we take interns along, and they get some hands-on experience working with this method. They get to deploy the BRUVs, to prep everything, and then afterwards, once it's been filming for say about an hour or so, we take the BRUVs back, download the data, and the interns actually get some experience analyzing the footage that they literally shot maybe the week before.
Okay, that's another question I was definitely going to ask you, because Ralph, say you're doing 4 deployments on a single session, filming for about an hour. That's a lot of watch time. And are you just skipping through it, or are you putting the video on fast forward and watching it, or are you actually sitting down and analyzing that, watching that whole clip through?
Actually, the latter. So for every hour of deployment, if like with the first video that you saw, if there's a lot of fish swimming around, it can actually take up to 3 to 4 hours just to analyze a single deployment. And you've got to go back and over the same bit of video over and over again, just to make sure that you get all the species in the area, but also that you get an accurate count of those species. So yeah, it takes a very, very long time to go through all those videos.
Wow, man, that's quite a while, Ralph. Mark Jones, hey Mark, thank you for tuning in. So that's a very long time that you've spent looking at all these photos and videos. Sorry, not photos, the videos. But that means you must have seen some really cool stuff, because from a wildlife environment and working on the sea, I know sometimes nothing can be going on, so you have to watch all of it, but then all of a sudden you see something really cool happening. So what are some of the coolest things that you've seen coming from these BRUV rigs?
So yeah, more from a science or scientific point of view, I'm very interested in a lot of the behavior of the different individuals. It's always nice to see like the octopus interacting with smaller cat shark species, how different individuals behave with each other. But so yeah, that's some of the stuff that interests me. But on the other hand, like after looking through hours and hours of videos, it's always absolutely fantastic to see a larger shark species come into view. And I can't talk about Gansbaai or Mosselbaai or Falsebaai without actually mentioning the great white shark. I have seen great white sharks on video on the BRUVS a couple of times. So I actually have a video coming up next. And it's just a clip of a white shark swimming around a BRUV rig, being very curious, but also not too aggressive. So you just saw it swimming in the background, a silhouette, and here it comes in overhead, and it just comes in closer and closer, trying to figure out where is this smell coming from.
Oh, that's so cool. Beautiful young girl, very curious, not aggressive at all, just very intrigued by what's going on here, Ralph.
Yeah, and it's moments like these that make analyzing BRUV videos absolutely worth it. These guys don't come around very often. They're not as abundant as all the fish that you see in front, but once it comes around, it absolutely makes your entire day, if not week.
Yes, man. I could imagine you're just sitting looking at all these fish, and then you just see the silhouette coming out of the murk there. Wow, that's a really cool clip and a really cool video. So was that in Gansbaai or was that in Mosselbaai with the white shark?
No, this particular clip was shot in Mosselbaai.
Professor Arif is saying, I have also done a shark cage dive with you guys. An incredible experience. Well, thank you very much. Join again. Yeah. We still have some sharks to show you. So when all this stuff is over, please join us again, Arif. I'm sure you're going to have a great time again. So guys, Ralph, thank you very much for all this interesting information and some of the very cool stuff that you've shown us today. And guys, we always tell you to go, please check out our Marine Dynamics or our Island Conservation Trust website, which is dict.org.za. It's at the bottom of the screen there. If you guys want to help donate to our research effort or any of our conservation efforts, you guys can check all of it over there. Or if you guys can also check out the Marine Dynamics Academy that Ralph was talking about. I'm sure you'll find a link to it on the DICT website. We will be posting a short video of Ralph's BRUVS and him talking and discussing a bit more and a bit of cool footage from the BRUVS tomorrow on our YouTube channel, which we always urge you to subscribe to. So the Marine Dynamics YouTube channel, please go check that out. Hit the bell for notifications. We've actually got 3 videos coming up this week. So go check out the YouTube channel, hit the bell to subscribe, and then and for the notifications. What else did I want to say about the YouTube? Oh yes, if you guys have any questions about the video that you guys will see, our Q&A session with Ralph on everything that we don't get to today will be on Friday. So you guys can tune in again on Friday. Remember to hashtag those questions with Science Save Sharks. And Ralph, I believe one of our co-workers and another one of your biologists um, in the team, in the team of biologists, I can say, that is also going live or doing a session tomorrow. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so our friend and colleague Alison Towner is going live tomorrow with a local wine farm. So she's gonna be sipping on a Sauvignon Blanc while discussing the white sharks that we get in this area. So good luck, Alison.
Yeah, guys, and I'm definitely tuning in. Remember, guys, you have to RSVP on our Facebook for that. It is free. It's not going to cost any money, but please just RSVP for that. I think it's going to be very interesting. So, guys, thank you very much from our side for joining us, Hannah Towner. Is that Ali's mom? Hey, thank you very much for joining us. Hey, man. Very, very cool. So, guys, thank you. And Ralph, really cool chat, man. I learned a lot. I always learn a lot when being in the field with you as well. So, very interesting. And, guys, if you have any questions for Ralph, don't forget to post. So, Ralph, from your side, would you like to say anything before we finish up?
Well, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the questions on Friday.
Yes, guys, please post those questions. We want a lot of juice for our Q&A. Cheers, and remember to stay safe out there. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
I like that. I'm going to start doing that.